My new Triskele pattern, the mini Triskele, just released. It is now available for my patrons and it goes live on September 1st for the public. So in this video, I'll be showing you how to make this Triskele. It is a nice boxy style pattern. If you haven't seen it, it is the little sister of the regular size Triskele, which is almost double the size of this. But this one is a perfect palm size wallet. It is just so much fun to make. I love it. The Triskele pattern is probably top 3 pattern sellers for me, and so I've had a couple people ask through the years if I would ever do a mini, and I'm so happy to finally release it to y'all. It has 3 recessed card slots here and they're horizontal, and then it has 1 interior ID window, and then just like the big sister, it has 2 cash slots, but of course this will be for folded cash, and then the freestanding zipper pouch there. The pattern differs a little bit from the big Triskele, from its big sister. The main way that it is different is that the flap uses corset D-rings. Those are available on my site. If you do not want to use that hardware, you don't have to, but I don't show you how to do the traditional style. If you want to do the traditional style though, you certainly can, and you would do it the same exact way that we do it on the big Triskele. You would just mirror that for here. Other than that, everything is about the same. It's just tiny. But though she be little, she is fierce. You can use magnetic snaps or you can use spring snaps. It's totally up to you. It all comes together the same either way. So yeah, without further ado, let's get to making. You can find all the pertinent links in the description box below, all the information about the products that I'm using, where to get the project box, all of that stuff. And yeah, I'll see you at the other end of the video. Bye. For this video, I used the cork that is included in the project box, and it is this beautiful pearlescent silvery white situation with blues and purples. This is the original watercolor designed by Lauren at Mormino. So I have all of my pieces cut and ready to go. Hold on, sorry, let me get myself back together here. If you got the box, then you also got these really cool slap bracelets. This was a collaboration between Lauren and I, where I did the calligraphy and then we added her roses, and then we got matching colors to the colors on the cork here. And the box comes with 3. And if you do love how these work, check out my website. I have lots available and lots of different options. So moving along, we have our zipper and our zipper pull. This is not what comes with the box. This is just all that I had left for nickel in my stash. I have my wristlet strap holder. So this was 1/2 inch wide. Now I have my corset, here they are. My corset D-rings, these are available on my site. And then I have, of course, coordinating rivets. I have my stiff interfacing. Now in the box you get this is Craft Tex. I have cut all of my pieces and then I wrote on them what they are. It's kind of hard to see because my pen is running out of ink. I have my cambric fabric. This is a lot like weed barrier fabric. It's just a little bit thicker. You can get this at any craft store and it comes by the yard. So it's a little bit easier to find for some folks. Otherwise, you can get weed barrier fabric from any like Lowe's, Home Depot, outdoor store like that. So I have my length cut here. I have all my linings here. I have my card pockets, or zipper pocket linings, as well as my ID window backing. This is a linen situation and it was super thin, so I went ahead and interfaced all 3. These pieces do call for interfacing. This one generally doesn't, but you can do whatever you want. You know, this is just a jumping off point. You decide what's best for your materials based on what you have. So I have all my linings there. I have my zipper end pieces, my wristlet strap here, and then all 3 of my panels. Now I know that the part that trips people up the most is transferring all of our cut lines, and so I figured that I would do that on camera for you guys. Now if you notice the panels, these 2 are very similar in size. There is just about a 1/2 inch difference, so keep that in mind whenever you're cutting. You want to be sure that you're cutting the proper pieces. So you're going to grab your marking pen of choice. I'm using this silver marking pen. And you're going to take your middle piece here, the middle cut, I guess you could say. And we're going to lay our pattern piece right side up. And now I'm being sure to align all of my edges here. And what I've done is I've punched little holes at the end of my line here. And I'm going to use that to mark my start and stop for my cut line. And then I've cut out my ID window there. So first I'm going to line up all my edges and then draw within those cut lines to note where I need to cut out with my rotary blade for the ID window and the card slot. Now, she is not pretty, but it gets it done. So this is that. What I also need to do is, whoa, okay. I need to mark my fold lines here. You see I have first fold, second fold, third fold, and so on. So what I like to do is I just kind of nick it down about 1/4 of an inch, making sure that my top and bottom are lined up correctly. And then I just mark those lines. Swivel and do the same. And then another thing that I like to do just to help, especially on this piece, is I'm going to slide this over. Now I know that this is the top here where my logo is, so I'm just gonna write that up here. Because sometimes after you insert everything, it gets a little confusing. So I just like to write the top. And now this is actually going to be the inside of the zipper pouch, and it might not make any sense now, but if you've made the big Triskele, you'll understand this is going to come together with a series of folds, and it's just always good to know where everything's at. So mark your top there, move that guy out of the way, and we're gonna grab our long piece, flip it over to the back, and do the same thing. Now I have punched out my snap marks as well as my lines here. And don't mind my notes. This is the last printout that I used whenever I was finalizing the pattern. So some of these notes are incorrect and misleading. So don't follow those notes if you can read them. But I know how the pattern is supposed to be now that I've completed it, so I didn't have to make any changes. I didn't want to print out an extra piece. All right, and then so again, I'm going to mark the top here. And now the top on this piece is going to be the interior side of the flap. So this one is really important to note as well. And then lastly, we have our exterior, and this is the shortest guy. And same thing, we're going to just punch or mark all the holes that we need to punch out for the snaps, and then for the corset D-rings up here. And then I'm also going to slide and make my marks for my fold lines. Now the fold lines are mostly just guide marks. They come in handy as checkpoints later and throughout the construction process. That being said, they are okay to change. If there are certain points of the wallet that you need to be exactly precise, and I will go through those as we're making the wallet. But there's some wiggle room in here, and as long as everything sets up nice and checks out before we do our final construction, the wallet's going to come together fine. So let's get going. We need to cut out and punch our holes and cut our lines here. So I'm just going to go back to this section. We'll start here. And I'm going to grab my rotary blade. If you're more comfortable, you can use an X-Acto blade or scissors. It's totally up to you. But I am just lining up my ruler on the ID window mark that I made. And I'm just going to cut out this ID window. Now I'm being careful to not cut over. If anything, I'm making a shorter cut because I can nip into those corners with my scissors and I'll be a lot more precise. So there are those. And now with this here, you have a couple options. You can punch out the holes if you'd like to. If you have a hole puncher, that's totally up to you. Or you can just connect the dots. And so I'm just going to connect the dots here. You just want to make sure that when you're lining up your ruler that you're lining it up in the center of the dots, or else your line will just be slightly off, which doesn't make a difference. It's just visually, you can kind of tell depending on how off it is. So now that we've got all of our beginning cuts here, I'm just going to go back and finish them up with a pair of sharp scissors. And then if I didn't make my cut all the way to the dot, I'm going to go back and nip that out as well. That one looks good. And on to the next. On this one, we just have to connect the dots down here for the recessed card slots. So I'm going to do that the exact same way. We are going to get started by making our recessed card slots. So the first thing that I'm going to do is grab some double stick tape. Double stick tape is going to be your best friend in this process. If you do not have that, I suggest a quick setting glue that doesn't interfere with your needle. I like to use Beacon Fabri-Tac. But if you do have double stick tape, you're going to lay a piece above card slot 1, below, below, and below. So you should end with 4 pieces in total. And you don't have to do a piece across the whole stretch of the card slot. And as a matter of fact, don't do that, because what will happen is your card slot material is not cut to be the same width. It's cut to come just on the inside of our notches here. Or not the notches, but the holes here if you punch those out. So you just need a little bit to hold this into place. This is not going to be the permanent solution. We're going to be stitching this as well. So just put enough here to hold it. I wanted to also point out that it is helpful to number your fold lines. So from the top here, we're going to work our way down. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And like I said before, these aren't going to be used throughout the pattern, but more so just as checkpoints. And it is a little easier when they're notated, because once we start getting into the folding process, they're hard to count. So just suggest doing that. Like, oh, be helpful if I showed you, huh? So just number all the way down the panel. We're going to grab our card slot material as well as our accordion fold template, and we're going to head over to the machine. All right, so for the project, I am using the Project Box thread. This is from Wizardry. It is Tex 80, and it's called Serene Sky. And Lauren designed this thread by using the same colors that are in the cork. I generally am not a big variegated thread, especially bright colors. But I gotta say, I've been using this a lot on eggplant cork and lilac, and it really just coordinates with a lot of other things as well. So getting this thread in the Project Box will last you forever, and it's really versatile. I will be sewing on my Juki TL 2010Q, and I'm using a size 18 needle, and I will be using a size 4.5 stitch length. I have matching thread in my bobbin, and we're going to be playing a little bit of bobbin chicken, so we'll see who wins. My guess is on the machine. Okay, so over here I have my panel, my card fabric, and then my accordion fold template. I'm going to put my template to the side just for a second. And now let's talk about the card slots. So this is the top of our panel, which means if you work your way down the panel, card slot number 1 is this top card slot. 2 is the center, and 3 is the bottom. I completed sewing the panel and realized that the camera stopped, so I cut out another piece for a different wallet. So we are just going to pretend like this cork is the cork that we're working on. So yeah, here we are. 1, 2, 3rd card slot here. You need to notate where your top is, because we will be using that in a second. You're going to grab your accordion fold template and then your cambric or your weed barrier fabric. You can also use ribbon. So starting below card slot 3, peel that tape off, and you're going to center your card slot panel in between your lines here, or in between your dots. And I'm overlapping just enough to cover up that tape. I'm not measuring. You saw I just clunked it on down there. So once you get that taped into place, you're going to flip, and from the right side, we're going to stitch across just below card slot number 3. You're going to start and stop at the ends of your lines, and you can decide if you want to pull through to the back and tie off, or if you want to back stitch. Dealer's choice on that one. Trim your threads and flip back over. We will be working from the wrong side again. Now what I'm going to do is just gently flip my card slot fabric down toward the bottom, and I'm putting my fingers on the right and left side of the fabric, and I'm holding this into place, and I'm gently tugging on the bottom to create a nice fold. Once it starts to fold on its own, I'm just going to help it by finger pressing out of the way. So now we have a nice folded crease here, and what I'm going to do is grab my accordion fold template, and this dashed line needs to be aligned with the card slot that we're working on. So right now we're creating the 3rd card slot. So we need to lay the dashed line where it aligns with this cut line here. So get that laid out and then hold it into place. I like to keep a finger or two up here at the top of it. And what I'm going to do is gently flip and fold the lining, the card slot fabric up and over like so. You're going to finger press down here, and I'm moving my fingertips down to the very edge where that fold is, and I'm going to very carefully wiggle my template out of the way. And while maintaining this fold here, I'm going to pull this up so I can see my tape, and I'm peeling up card slot 2's tape. So we're just working up from the bottom up. So peel that and then lay this back down. Apply some pressure and then flip. Now we're going to stitch right under card slot 2, just like we did previously. And trim your threads and flip back over to the wrong side. We're going to repeat that step to create card slot 2. So slide your hand between the 2 layers, put your fingers here on the right and left side, grab your material, pull it to where it starts to crease, and then help it by finger pressing it. Line up your dashed line on the next slot. So this is card slot 2. Hold it into place. Create that fold down over the bottom. Wiggle your template out and then peel your paper off the back of your tape. Now notice when I'm doing that, I'm not pulling on it. I'm letting everything lay exactly how it was when I used the template. If you start pulling and shifting all of this around, what will happen is your card slots won't line up, and it will end up throwing off how your cards fit into the front up here. So you just want to be sure that you're, as Lauren says, using Ouija board hands during all of this. We're just guiding it. We're not shoving things into place and tugging and pulling. So flip back to right side up and stitch just below that first card slot line. And now it may seem like we're done here, but we actually still need to create a card slot, or yeah, we need to create the pocket for whenever we use the first card slot. Right now, there is no card slot right there. So we're not going to be stitching above this. We'll just be taping this into place, and you'll see how I do that in just a second. But don't be fooled by this. We need to make one more card slot. You should have 3 loops along the bottom here. So repeat that process. We're going to pull our material down toward the bottom, finger press it out of the way, align your dash line onto card slot 1, flip up and over, slide out your template, and then now what we're going to do is peel this tape off up here, the last piece of tape, and put the card slot material into place. And now you see you have 3 loops. That means that all of our card slots are now functional. But what I need to do is get rid of this excess here. And what I'm going to do is trim it to where it lies just below this fold line 4. So I just pull back on it, and then as soon as it starts to give resistance, I'm going to finger press it and then trim. Like so. Now what I like to do to ensure that my card slots aren't all crazy on the inside whenever I start flipping and flapping this around again, I'm going to add a piece of double stick tape here. So you saw I didn't measure it, I just kind of eyeballed it. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start it just below fold line 4, just like that. And then apply pressure evenly. And what this does is it holds your card slots in place to where they're not shifting around and having the opportunity to, you know, make moves back here that we can't keep an eye on. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is fold our panel to enclose our card slots, and we're going to use fold line 4 to do that. The way that I like to do it is I take my fingernails and I lay them directly on those marks to give myself a fold line. So I flip it over, and then ensuring that my right and left side edges are nice and straight, I'm going to finger press and top stitch just along this fold here. Trim threads. Okay, so now what you should have is a panel that looks something like this. So with the card slots face down, I'm going to hold on to this bottom section down here, and I'm going to pull and peel up and over this top section to reveal fold line number 3. And I'm going to fold a crease on that fold line. It might be enticing to try to align 3 and 5, but it doesn't work like that, so don't try to do it. This is not the same as the big Triskele. This is a little bit different process here. There's a method to the madness, I promise. So once you have that folded crease, we need to somehow adhere these together so that they're not flopping around. You can do double stick tape or clips. Before I get all of that taped into place, I am going to peel off this double stick tape down here. Might as well use it. So tape that down. And then now what I like to do is just add some double stick tape here along the right and left side seams. And it doesn't have to be a bunch. You just need enough to hold things into place. So I'll peel up this section here. Can you see what I'm doing? So I peeled up down here. Okay, my fingers aren't working. Just at every step of the way, you want to make sure that everything is nice and tight and lined up. So we're not going to peel that one off quite yet. Let's stick this tape first under here. I'm trying to do it to where you can see it, but I know my big hand is in the way. So when I'm taping down in here, I'm being very sure not to overlap where my lines start and stop, because that's where my cards are going to go in and out of, and if you tape over that, you're going to have an issue. All right, lastly, right here along the edge. And then you can see I'm taping about a 1/16 of an inch close to the edge. You can also glue, or you can just bypass the tape altogether and you can just put clips here. It's totally fine. I do like the security of tape. It just holds everything so nicely. Took me a while to get onto the tape train, but now that I'm here, I am here for good. Okay, so as you can see, I peeled my paper and then I flipped it back over to where the cards are right side down so that I can see this third fold line again. And once I'm sure that I have it in place, I'm going to do like so. Now right here, because my double stick tape is long and trails over my card slots, it's sticky down here, so I'm just gonna have to pay attention to that later. Yeah, so I know that that happens though. It does happen every time I make one. So now you should see your top flap, fold slot, or fold line 1, fold line 2, fold line 3. Fold line 4 is now up here. This created our cash slot. Then you have 5 and 6. And later in our folding, our 5 and 6, this is going to become half of the boxed bottom, and 1 and 2 will become the boxed top. So it's starting to come together. Now we're back to our regularly scheduled wallet. To complete the interior top, we need to install our magnetic snaps. You can also use spring snaps, it's totally up to you. I just happen to have these out, so I'm going to be using the magnetic snaps. I'm using the male portion. I'm going to take the washer, and using the dots that I made earlier, I'm going to align the center hole and make my marks here. Oh, this pen doesn't want to work. That's cool. Do for both sides here. And then I like to use my X-Acto blade to make these little cuts. You can also use a seam ripper, but I find that can get out of control very quickly with me using a seam ripper and trying to maintain how far I'm cutting. So from the front side, we're going to install the snap. And on the back side, we will lay our washer. Now, because we are putting a piece of craft tex here, I'm not going to concern myself with putting any additional stabilizer. And that can be put to the side for now. Onto the interior bottom, it is the piece that has the ID window cut out. And you need to have your vinyl and have your ID window backing at the ready because we will be installing that after we sew in our window. The first thing I'm going to do is glue my ID window into place. A lot of people ask me why don't I tape it, and I don't know. I don't have any rhyme or reason, but whenever I'm putting ID windows in, I always glue. I do not understand my operating system behind that. I think it's just easier to maneuver. That way, if you have to make adjustments, you can just kind of slide it around. And this glue sets up so quickly that it doesn't, impede me from working quickly. So your ID window should overlap each edge about 1/4 of an inch. You're just going to center it all the way around like so. Ta-da! Now we're going to pop to the machine, and using a 1/8 seam allowance, we're going to stitch around the entire perimeter. There we go. Good job, Nicole. The entire perimeter on the cork, and we will also stitch underneath this card slot here. This will be a dummy stitch. It's just for looks. All right, this is what we're working with now. We are ready to glue in our ID window backing. So I'm going to apply glue above the card slot line, down here, across the bottom, and then back up. Be careful not to get glue here in between this section because this is where our card or our ID will slide in. So we just need to glue all the way around all of it. Or tape. This area I've been known to use tape. You can do whatever you like. Now, I got a little wild here with the glue, so I'm just gonna wipe some of it off. And what I'm looking at here is I'm going to lay my cards or my ID window backing between 2 and 3. I don't want it in either of these folds here. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it, laying it like so. And this is what it should look like from the front. Now to complete this panel, we are just going to fold over on fold line 3, just so happens to be right in half. So you're just gonna fold the panel in half, and we're going to top stitch along this fold all the way across. Okay, so now with ID window down, just like I did last time, I'm going to keep the bottom laid flat, and I'm just going to fold up the top section. We're going to create a fold on fold line 4, a crease. Now this will be very close to fold line 2, if not on it, depending on how precise, so sorry about that. Depending on how precise your folds are, this will line up to line 2. And we're going to do just like we did on the other panel. We are going to glue, tape, or clip our little folds into place here. We will now be adding our zipper to these panels to complete and make one big interior panel. But before I do that, I want to seal the edges of my zipper pieces and the zipper end pouch because I will not be edge coating these when the wallet is complete. So I'm just going to burn any little fuzzies that I'm using matte Mod Podge and my edge coat tools. And I'm just edge coating one side of the zip tab. Like so. And then I'm also going to seal the inside or the raw edge of the zipper pouch on both the top and bottom interior panels. Now our edges are all sealed. We need to add our pull to our zipper tape here, and I'm going to burn the edges of the tape and feed the pull on. You do this however you deem appropriate. And I'm going to tape my zipper tabs into place. I'm going to be using 1/8 double stick tape here. If I can find the end. There it is. And now I'm just going to be aware of which side I actually edge coated, or not edge coated, but sealed. So that way I ensure I lay it correctly. And we want the entire width to be the measurement that's outlined in the pattern. So be sure that whenever you're laying your zipper tabs, that it ends up being the width that's outlined as explained, as written. Okay, now that I have that completed, I'm going to pop to the machine and I'm going to stitch 1/8 from this inside raw edge on both sides here. This is what your zipper tape should look like now with your edges stitched down. And I personally like my zipper pulls to always open from the left side of my panels. So that's your choice. If you want it to open from the right, be sure to flip it so that your pull is on the right. Otherwise, leave it to the left. And then the layout that we're going for is this section that has the ID window is going to go on the bottom of the zipper tape. And this section that has the flap will go on the top. So for now, I'm just going to work on the top and the zipper. And I'm going to flip and on the wrong side, add a piece of double stick tape. Peel that up. And then you're going to align it on the top raw edge of your zipper tape. Now I'm leaving about 1/8, 3/16 of an inch of the zipper tape showing. This is not an exact measurement, but whatever you do up here, you want to do down here. Now the only thing that I'm looking at is I want to make sure that when I stitch at 1/8 of a seam allowance on this panel, that I'm going to catch my zipper tape, and I have plenty. So if you look at it from the side, I overlapped it about 1/4 of an inch total. Again, leaving about 3/16 of an inch of the zipper tape here, of this purple showing. Now before I stitch that down, from the back side, I'm going to add another piece of tape. And as a reminder, you could be doing glue for all of this. You just need to let the glue set up before you start flip-flopping everything around, or else you're going to get some shifting. So put some tape just like that right along the bottom of the zipper edge. Peel it up. and take one of your zipper panels and lay it right side down, align the raw edge. See how fray this stuff is? That's why I interfaced it, thank goodness. But lay one side, one raw edge along the edge of your zipper like that. And this is what it should look like. Now we're going to go to the machine and we're going to top stitch on this top interior panel 1/8 of a seam allowance to stitch everything into place. So now that we've got it stitched into place, what we're going to do is fold this zipper pocket lining down and finger press it out of the way. Add a clip to keep it into place. And now we're going to attach the other panel here. So I went ahead and I brought that over. So your interior bottom, you're going to add, see, this is where it should say top because this is the interior, the inside of the zipper pouch. So we're going to add a piece of double stick tape just like we did before. And then this time we are going to align it along the bottom of the zipper tape. So make sure your pull is out of the way. And then you want to be sure that you're getting a nice straight seam here. There we are. So finger press that and then gently flip, and we're going to add our zipper pocket lining. And again, this raw edge gets aligned with the bottom edge of the zipper tape like so. Now flip and top stitch. And then just like before, we're going to create a nice crease. Make sure your zipper is closed though. But fold this other zipper pocket lining down out of the way and get a nice finger press, nice crease in there, especially if you have interfacing. So the next thing that we're going to do is close up our zipper pocket pouch. But I realized I should have told you this before. You want to trim down your zipper teeth if you can, just to avoid bulk. So because I'm already to this stage, I can do it. It's just going to be a little bit of, just, you know, an uphill climb, but it can be done. This will not be my first time forgetting to trim the zipper tape. Certain it won't be my last. So I'm just going to take my scissors and kind of snip up and around, staying away from my stitch lines all around. Oh my gosh, my neighbors are really going for it out there. And so I just want to get as much of those teeth out of the way as possible. It's just going to reduce bulk later whenever we're stitching these panels together. And then I'm going to repeat that over here. There we go. So should have done that in the last step, but here we are. Now, once you have everything ready to go, you can see here how my interior lining pieces of the zipper pouch, they want to lay together, and we want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick it up by just those two. So just the two zipper pouch linings, and let the top and bottom panels angled or face each other. So these are right sides together down here. Now I'm looking at a couple things on this fold here. I'm not so much concerned with how well my bottom edge is lining up, but what I'm looking at, number one, see this raw edge here and this raw edge here? When this is folded together, are those lining up? I want to make sure that those are lining up down in that little fold right there. So that's what I'm looking at first. Once I get this side lined up, I'm going to toss a clip on it, and I'm going to flip over. It's also a little bit easier if you unzip your zipper about halfway It gives you a little bit more breathing room on each side. But so once you get this side lined up, you're going to flip over and look at this side. So I'm looking in between my zipper tab, and I want to line those pieces up. Add a clip. Sometimes doing one side and then the other causes a little bit of unevenness, so just come back and align everything again. Now the second thing I'm looking at is these two folds, which create the cash spots. Are they lining up? Is the bottom of this cash spot lining up with the bottom of this one? In a perfect world, these should be perfectly even, as well as these. Now, we are human and to err is human, and so I do not expect these to be exactly perfect, but that is another section that I'm looking at. Now, if I hold it gently, I'm pretty darn close there, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to add a clip right there, and then again, rotate and check out this side. So I can see I'm a little bit off over here, but I'm about the same on both edges, so I'm not going to trip over it. So I'm going to ensure that this side is lined up, and then as close as possible right here. The reason that I'm looking at these cash bottom sections is because in a minute, this is what is going to become the bottom fold of the wallet. And the more even that these two folds are, the more even the bottom is going to be. This is where things can get squirrely. So there are a couple ways to mitigate that. What you can do is you can peel this section and you can retape it to where like you can add some ease into it and make it all line up. So there are some steps that you can take to mitigate this if it's not exactly correct. So I'm going to just add a little bit more fold into this pocket section here. And see where that gets me. But truly, just being off by, you know, that 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, that's not going to cause major issues. So I'm not really concerned with that. But those are the two sections that I'm looking at. So once you get those two clipped and everything is not shifting, it's staying where it's supposed to, now we're going to pay attention again to these pocket linings. We're just going to pinch them, let them lay where they will. I'm going to add just a couple clips so that nothing shifts around on me. And now I'm going to go back over to the machine and I'm going to stitch from as close as possible up to here, down across the bottom, and then back up. I'm not stitching up onto my zipper tab ends. Do not do that. Just get as close as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect because when this is all flipped the right way, nothing is going to be able to get in and out of the teeny little hole that will be right there. So we're all stitched up, and then I trimmed down just a touch just to keep all the little fray pieces out of the way. Whoa. And now this is what it looks like from the side. But what we're going to do is close our zipper, and then you're just going to push everything back this way like this. And then again, I'm looking at these panel raw edges, and I'm ensuring that they line up on this side. And if you need to, you can kind of pull on the lining to get it to sit correctly. And you know, you're stronger than this wallet, so you tell it what to do. And then again, just like we did when it was flipped the other way, now I'm looking at those same points of contact. I'm lining up here, adding a clip, getting my hair out of the way because it's everywhere. And now flip and do the same thing on this panel. So when I can see that these two are lined up, I'm going to clip into place and then clip down here. Now the last thing that I'm looking at, these lines here. So this is line 6 of the top panel, line 6 of the top panel, and line 2 of the bottom panel should be pretty darn close to touching down here. Once you get everything kind of lined up, what you're going to do is you're going to measure from this raw zipper edge here 3 inches down and mark across the bottom of the panel. You can see where I've done that. Make enough marks where when you're stitching, you'll get a nice stitch line. And if you already see holes here from stitching before, no, you don't. You be quiet. So measure 3 inches from this raw edge down, make your marks. Those 3-inch lines should be pretty darn close to 2 and 6 meeting up here, as well as your pouches lining up. Once you get everything squared away exactly where you want it to be, we're going to start at our top right corner. Using a 1/8 seam allowance, we're stitching down. We're going to hit that, all those notches that we made, stitch a straight line across the bottom and then back up. Now, if you have kind of a hard time getting a nice start from the top of this panel, what I suggest doing is you just start a little bit lower to where you can get your foot comfortably on, get your needle sunk, and then you can back up. We are all stitched. Our entire interior panel is now complete and ready to be attached to the stabilizer as well as the exterior. We're getting close to finishing up here. Now I just want to do a couple of housekeeping steps before I move on. Number one is I'm going to finger press my zipper pouch back and forth, help it create a nice fold. I'm going to look at the bottom. So this is the interior top here. Going to look at the bottom. And going down my fold lines, I'm going to finger press. So fold line 1, I'm finger pressing to where I'm finger pressing everything right side together. So finger press on fold line 1. Find fold line 2, finger press on that one. Fold line 3 is the bottom of this interior panel, but we need to crease fold line 5 right here. So crease that as well. And what you should be seeing is the bottom of your card slot here should meet up with this fold as well. Now next, we're technically on the other side, so on the interior bottom panel, but we're going to crease fold line 2. Now fold line 2 should meet up with the bottom of this ID window fold. And what you should start to see is the shape coming together. So you can finger press all of the bottom edges together. And then when it flattens back out, ta-da, there is our boxed bottom coming together. And then this fold line 1 and 2 will create our top fold. See how it's starting to take shape here? That is what we're looking for. Now, a note on this top fold, if at any point, whenever you're finger pressing fold line number 2, if your interior cash slot impedes that in any way, you need to make some adjustments to this section here. You're going to peel this back and fold it to where you do not have any issues with folding on fold line number 2 very comfortably. Okay, so once you get that, we're good to go. We need to get our exterior piece and our other side of our magnetic snaps. This is the flap up here. I can tell because on the exterior, the snaps are on the bottom, on the inside. So this is the flap. I should have demarcated that earlier, but I didn't. So sue me. Sue me, why don't you? So we're gonna install the remaining snap sections here. Now this is ready to go. This is the layout. What I like to do here is just kind of a dry fit. I like to start up here at the flap, align my top edge, and then just kind of check out how are things laying. I'm going to pick up my zipper pouch and let it chicky nay nay blow in the wind. So that's looking pretty good. If it was a glaring issue, I would need to go back and figure out what went wrong. A way that you can fix that, say your interior panel is way shorter. Say you had a 1/2 inch overhang that you needed to fix. You will bump this bottom line up by 1/4 inch. And then that will give you a 1/2 inch once it's splayed open like this. When you start to get into those maneuvers, that's where the layout of things gets a little shifty. That's when the wallets sit like they're leaning back or leaning forward, because when we already have our snaps installed, we have to snap it where they're going to snap, you know? So if we start getting into changing things around exponentially by 1/4 of an inch more, you're going to have a little bit of it's going to look a little different in the end. So best case scenario, it fits perfectly. If it doesn't, you only want like 1/8, 1/4 of an inch at most to come off this section down here. All right, let's grab our stabilizer, and we are going to add it to the interior piece. This is different than the original Triskele pattern. We normally would add it here, and that's why I added all these fold lines. But I found that if we attach it to the interior, then we know for certain that it's going to be exactly where we want it to be when the wallet is completed. Now on my pieces here, oh, a note about this, Craft Tex, you can iron this. If yours is a little like curved or whatever, you can iron it. I gently misted it and put it in my heat press, and now it's straight as an arrow. But anywho, so I went ahead and I wrote which goes where. So this is my flap. That will go there. This is my back. So the back goes in between fold line 2 and fold line 5. And then the inside piece goes down here. Now I have these 2 remaining pieces, and I just cut mine. I doubled the width on it just so I could fold it in half, but you can, it's the same exact process if you were to cut 4 like I told you to in the pattern. But what I'm gonna do is just fold it in half, get a nice crease here. Repeat that for this one. And then I like to take some double stick tape and tape these down, which even if I just cut it how the pattern says, I cut the 1 inch wide, I would be doing the same thing. You tape these 2 together. Bada bing, bada boom. Now these, one goes in betwixt the flap and the back piece, and one goes in betwixt the back and the inside piece. Now these are going to be very, very close to each other. You want them to be as close as possible without overlapping, because what happens whenever we start to bend the wallet, it's going to create a nice gap. And this is where we're going to get our real nice box sections. So I'm going to start at my flap, and you can glue or tape this into place. Highly suggest doing one or the other. You don't want to let these just be flapping around in there. Now, whenever I am laying these pieces together, I'm looking for about fat 1/8, 1/4 of an inch gap along the side and top here. And then I'm going to skip my flap for now. I'm going to add my back piece. And then I'm lining that up right on line number 2. And it's going to be right here on line number 5. Now, if you have excess, I would definitely trim. You want it to stay within 2 and 5. So I've got a little bit of overhang right here, so I'm going to trim that down. It's great because I just glued it, so I can't wait to see what I get glue all over. So I just want this to be a nice straight edge, because the bottom of the wallet is going to follow this fold. And you can see it wasn't much, but on this step, this can make a difference. Okay, so let's get that glued into place. And so now I'm just looking at my sides here. I want it to be centered, give myself some breathing room for my top stitching. Let's do my side. Perfect. Inside, not side, sorry about that. And so I am aligning this so that it is right along the bottom of that fold. Just like that. All right, I'm gonna come back and add my flap sections here. Now the reason that the original Triskele doesn't have a double stabilizer on the top box fold is because on the original Triskele, we make an entire piece of cork that stretches across the entire panel, and it has the D-rings. And so you don't need the double piece of interfacing. But because this one uses the corset D-rings, you need some more additional stabilizer in here. Okay, so that's how we're looking. See how they're like kissing in there. But as soon as you fold it, you see where those where the gaps come in. And I think that this is the most important piece of the entire wallet in order to achieve that box section, the bottom box. And so I'm going to pick it up. I've got a finger on either side of the zipper pouch, and I'm going to align it in between fold line 2 and fold line 6, like so. You can see, so now that is the boxed bottom, and here is the box top. Ta-da! Okay, now that we've got these into place, you can let your glue set up. While that gets set up, I'm going to add some glue here. Again, I'm going to start up at my flap section. And I like to glue or tape it in sections. So that way, especially if you're taping it, just peel your tape as you go down and you get everything laid nicely. Because if you peel all your tape at one time, it's going to be such a pain in the butt to try to fix if you accidentally lay something out weird. Okay, so I'm lining up my top edge here, and I'm keeping an eye on my side edges as well. And I'm just going to go down the entire panel and glue it into place. I'm keeping this hand here so that nothing slips. Oh, a little heavy-handed when I'm using my left hand to squeeze glue. Okay, so now once I'm on this cash slot area, I'm going to lay that nicely. And then when I get down to the bottom fold, I'm gonna kind of pull on this section just a little bit to ensure that everything is nice and stretched out the way that it's supposed to. I'm also going to pick up my zipper pouch so that it is in the position that it will be when the wallet is in use. And once I get that section laid out nicely, I will add my glue to my back section, my inside section rather. The other reason that I like glue on this section is because whenever you get it all into place, then you can maneuver it around, fold it, see exactly how it's going to react whenever it's closed up, sealed with stitches. You can get a good idea about how it's going to work out. And if you need to make adjustments, you can still make adjustments. Now, if you're taping at this point, it's harder to maneuver stuff around. With the glue, you can kind of slide things. So whenever I folded this, it naturally wanted to pull off. The exterior wanted to pull off on the flap section. I'm not turbo concerned with it, but when I open it back up, I will feed it back, realign all of my edges. Because the good thing with cork is that it's a little stretchy. So whenever I stitch everything into place, if I have a nice tight stitch, whenever I stretch it, it'll just kind of stretch to meet the demand. But what I don't want is I don't want there to be any gap or like bunching of the cork to where when the wallet is open, it'll be, I don't want any bubbles like that. So yeah, just kind of play with the fit. Make sure it's how you want it to be. And then once it's exactly where you want it to be, we're going to clip. And now I will make edits and be pushing around on this panel until I'm stitching it down. Everything is still movable, and that's why we're going to take advantage of this. So now we need to stitch around the top section and then around the bottom section. From the top side, I'm going to start right here on the right hand side, right on this seam. I'm going to stitch down. I'm going to get as close as I can to this wallet panel to where I can comfortably sew. On my original Triskele, I had you stop about 1/4 of an inch, and what that did is it allowed a gap right here. You can close the gap up with many different means, tape, glue, things like that. But what I found is that if you can get a real close stitch, then it mitigates a lot of headache afterward. Okay, so we're gonna stitch down, across, up, and meet back up. And then I'm going to flip and do the same thing here. I'm gonna stitch down as close to the zipper pouch as I can, across, up, and back over it. All right, top right, let's get her going. When I'm stitching, I'm trying to keep in line my stitch line from up here to where my zipper pouch is. Now, again, I'm not gonna stitch up onto the zipper pouch, but just visually, so that way I'm maintaining a nice straight line. So I got as close as I could. I'm about 1/8 of an inch from this stitch line here. And now if you need to, you can use a hump jumper or a needle case to help give you a flat surface, because right now the right side of my foot is bumped up on top of my zipper pouch. I always like to use a needle case in this area. And so I'm just keeping the left side of my foot on top of the needle case and the right side is on top of the zipper pouch, and I'm just going to move it along. Just be careful that you don't actually accidentally sew the needle case. Add some stay stitches here over this stress point. Side one. Now we're going to pull our zipper pouch the opposite direction and stitch this side down. Now you will be contending with your zipper or your magnetic snaps down here, so go slow. We're all stitched together. This is what it should look like from the back. Nice straight lines here. And about a fat 1/4 there. Make sure you trim off your threads. And what you'll do is if you have any excess, you want to trim that off. So you can see I've got that little tiny edge right there. And I'm just going to lay the inside of my rotary blade right along the shorter piece of cork and use that as my cut line. And then now it's nice and even. If you have any weirdness on the sides here, I would suggest trimming that down as best as possible. It will behoove you to have a really sharp blade in your rotary blade if that's what you're using. See, here's a little bit of overhang there. Now this can be kind of weird to get into, but you have to fold everything backwards like that if you want to use a rotary blade. Or if you have a nice sharp pair of scissors, those work really well on the zipper pouch edge. Now, if you're going to be edge coating, you can hide a lot of discrepancies in the edge. Mine came out pretty good. And now the moment of truth is when we fold it and snap it. And we see how well the fit is. So now when we do this, I'm also going to finger press around my stabilizer here and just help guide it to where I want it to be. Ha! If it stands up, that's a good sign. I love it when it stands up. Sometimes it doesn't want to, it wants to fall backwards, fall forward, and it just needs some more training. So don't be afraid to give it some hell and tell it where to lay. Remember, you're the boss. All right, let's finish up this last step here. Let's make our wristlet strap, and then we can add our D-rings, and we will be like a Crunchwrap Supreme, good to go. So I'm going to fold this strap into thirds. I'm going to fold one long edge in just under half, and then I'm going to fold this over top like that, clip all the way down. We're going to go to the machine. We're going to stitch around all 4 sides here. We're all ready for our hardware. Now, the side that I start and stop on is the side that I tuck in to be hidden. And I like my nice edge to be on the outside. I'm just going to nip my corners here. You don't have to do it on this side that'll be hidden, but you know, continuity's sake. So on the nice finished edge, I slide my hardware, and I'm making sure that this fold is toward the inside because I'm gonna loop it around this way, and that way I have the nice folded edges on the outside. So the stitch line, nice stitch line down toward the bottom, go up and over about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or so, whatever feels right. Measure with your heart. And I like to hold it with my left thumbnail like that and ensure that it's nice and centered. And then you punch a hole through all of the layers, add your rivet. And then press your rivet into place. Ta-da! So now that is done, and we just need to install our D-rings, our little corset D-rings. Druzy so graciously knocked them on the floor for me earlier. Now you can decide if you want them on the top, on the outside, or if you want them to be hidden on the inside. I personally like them on the inside because then if you're not using the wristlet strap, then the actual D-ring itself can flip to the interior, and then it's nobody even knows that you have these attachments. But there will be D-rings showing on the outside. So really, I mean, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. You can use, now I made the mark earlier, but I did it on the interior of the exterior panel, which was silly. But I'm gonna grab my exterior pattern piece here and then remark my holes. Now, whenever I was punching my holes, I did it wackadoodle. So one of them's right, so I'm just gonna flip just to make sure they're all in the right area here. And now, if for any reason everything shifted or it kind of moved around during construction, you can move this placement. And I don't know if you can tell, but mine did. Mine are much closer to this back section, and I don't want that. I want them centered. So I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it and move them toward the center. If you want to, you can totally measure. It's up to you. You can also just omit these altogether. You don't need a wristlet strap on this wallet. This is just a fun little addition because I love these corset rings. Right? Grab a couple of rivets. I'm going to start by feeding them through the top here. So through the exterior, so that the posts are sticking out on the inside. And now I can just lay my D-ring on it, making sure that the hardware is right side up, and then add your cap. Another thing that you can do is if you're going to be edge coating, you can just leave these off altogether for now, or spin them to where they're facing the inside of the wallet. So then you have a nice, easy access to the edge here. And there we go. Would you look at that perfect palm-sized wallet? So freaking cute. The magnetic snaps are great here because as soon as you start to fold it, they want to lock together, but doing spring snaps works just as well. You can put your wristlet strap on either side. And if you want to, you can even make a crossbody strap. I just love how boxy it is. It's so perfect. Oh, it's so cute. And then we have our 3 horizontal card slots. At this point, you can test fit with a card. If they feel a little tight, you can pull up and you can cut into this little section. But just, you know, less is more. Start small, and if you need to get bigger, you can get bigger. But if you cut to the ends of the lines like I showed in the pattern, as you can see, you should have no issue getting a card in there. I love the structure that the craft text gives it, but of course, this is a choose your own adventure. If you don't want a stiff wallet, then leave it out. I don't care. You do you, boo. My friends, thank you so much for joining me in today's tutorial where we made the mini Triskele. I hope that you love this pattern as much as I do. As you can see, they don't take too long to come together. They are a lot of fun. You can customize them by doing all different pieces of cork. You can do fun edge coat like I did on this one, snaps. You can even try a twist lock. I mean, the world is your oyster. I have had success with selling these on my vending table. I get them, or I get 56 for them, and they sell pretty well. I just debuted them a couple weeks ago, last week, sometime in there, and they went really great on my table. So yeah, if you like this video, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. Feel free to join my Patreon. All of my videos come out early and ad-free, and my patrons get to help me decide what I'm doing next, and you guys just really get a behind-the-scenes look at my life. If you do join, it's not forever. You can come and go as you please. It is just a subscription-based community where we hang out and chat and yeah, just be friends, get to know each other. So all of those pertinent links will be down in the description box below, and I will see you next time. Let me say bye. Say hello. Say bye. Say something. Bye.